The biggest secret behind dark chosen ones' dual dimension power. There's a moment in every true seeker's life when the veil flickers just once and you see something you weren't supposed to. Not with your eyes, but with your inner knowing. A glitch, a silence inside the noise. You feel it before you understand it, like reality is layered and you've only been living on the outer crust. That moment is where the path of the dark chosen ones begins. Let's be clear, dark here isn't evil. It's not about destruction or chaos for its own sake. It's about depth. It's about the ones who didn't come here to float in the light. They came to anchor something older, deeper, and more dangerous. Not because they're reckless, but because they were built to handle it. They didn't choose this path, it chose them. And the secret behind their power isn't what most think. It's not magic spells. It's not rituals, it's not even awakening, it's something much more hidden, much more volatile, and unless you understand it, you'll never see the full picture. The biggest secret behind their dual dimension power is this: they were born with the ability to operate across two realities simultaneously, but they were programmed to forget, not just by society, not just by trauma, but by a cosmic contract, one that hides its terms in the folds of your psyche. It's like being born with wings and told you're a fish. So you spend your early life gasping in shallow water, wondering why nothing feels right. You try to blend in, you mimic the surface world, you learn to survive. But deep inside, your DNA is humming with something ancient, something that doesn't fit in this dimension alone.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Most people live in a single-layered reality. They believe what they see. They obey the rules of time, space, logic, and identity. They operate within the matrix of perception, never questioning the architecture around them. But dark chosen ones, they are different. They feel time folding. They see meanings behind meanings. They don't just dream, they travel. They don't just feel emotion, they decode frequencies. And while that might sound glamorous, it's not. Not at first. Because if you don't know what you are, your gifts become your curse. You feel everything, but can't explain it. You attract chaos, but can't control it. You speak truth, but no one hears you. So you begin to doubt yourself. And that's exactly how the system wins. Here's the secret that's never talked about. Dual dimension power isn't just access to higher realms, it's the capacity to contain contradiction, to be both shadow and light without being split, to feel rage and peace in the same breath, to move through trauma without identifying with it, to speak to spirits and still file taxes. That's the real power, not escaping reality, but expanding it from the inside out. And that's what makes the dark chosen ones so dangerous to the system, because they don't break the rules, they rewrite them by existing. But let me tell you why this power remains hidden in most. It's locked behind a paradox. In order to access it, you must stop seeking it. In order to hold it, you must stop needing it. In order to wield it, you must become empty. And that's the hardest initiation of all, because the ego wants power for safety, for revenge, for validation. But dual dimension power doesn't respond to ego, it responds to essence. It activates through surrender, not control, through presence, not performance. That's why many fail. They chase the effects. psychic visions, manifestations, energy manipulation, without ever confronting the core requirement? Can you sit in silence with your own shadow and not flinch? Can you feel your own darkness rise and not judge it? Can you love the part of you that was designed to destroy illusions, even if the world calls it dangerous? The dark chosen aren't here to be liked. They're here to be true. And truth, when it's raw, when it's unfiltered, when it cuts through centuries of programming, that truth is terrifying. Not because it's harmful, but because it's freeing. And freedom is the one thing this world fears the most. That's why dual dimension power is suppressed. That's why the dark chosen ones are gaslit, misdiagnosed, shamed, and silenced. Because when they remember who they are, the game changes. But here's what no one tells you. Remembering isn't a lightning bolt. It's a slow burn. It's the moment you stop trying to be spiritual and start being real. It's when you stop performing ascension and start embodying integration. It's when you stop chasing upgrades and start owning your frequency. That's when your power starts to return, not as fireworks, as gravity, as magnetism, as presence. People feel it before you speak. Reality bends before you command it. Synchronicities follow you like shadows, and you don't even try, because you've become a bridge. You're no longer in the world, you're through it. But I want you to ask yourself something now, something very few are brave enough to face. What part of you still believes you must earn your power? What part of you still thinks you must suffer to deserve it? Because that belief is the final lock, and no key will open it from the outside. It has to be dissolved from within. You have to give yourself permission to exist fully, without apology, without dilution, without fear. That's when the dimensions open. That's when the codes activate. That's when you stop being a seeker and start being a source. The dimensional split. How dark chosen ones walk in two timelines at once without losing themselves. There comes a point after you've begun to remember, after the veil has thinned and the illusion of linearity has cracked, when you realize something unsettling. You are no longer just living in one timeline. You are walking between two. And they are not metaphorical. One is the visible physical reality, the world of structure, laws, language, and cause-effect logic. The other is the invisible current beneath it, a dimension of energy, intention, archetype, and subtle echoes that shape the physical without ever being seen. This is the dimensional split, and this is where the true power and danger of the dark chosen ones begins to awaken. It's not easy, let's be honest. Living between these timelines is not glamorous. It's not like a movie where you suddenly gain magical clarity and everything starts working out. It's more like being torn apart by two gravitational pulls. One part of you wants to anchor into the physical world, to be present, functional, effective, but another part of you is constantly receiving impressions, messages, visions, feelings that don't belong to this world. You feel a truth before it happens. You sense a lie that hasn't been spoken. You know something without knowing how you know it. And most people around you can't feel what you feel, so you begin to question your sanity. Or worse, you begin to mute yourself in order to belong. That's the first danger of walking in two dimensions: fragmentation. If you don't know how to ground your energy, you'll start to dissociate. You'll find yourself floating through conversations, unable to connect. You'll become hypersensitive, over-empathetic, or emotionally reactive because you're absorbing signals from a reality no one else can see. And if you're not trained, you'll believe those signals are you. You'll carry pain that isn't yours, you'll react to energies that others don't even notice, and you'll start to feel like a ghost in your own life. But here's the deeper truth. This is not a malfunction, it's a feature. You've been designed to walk in two timelines at once because you are not here to participate in the current timeline. You are here to change it, and you cannot change what you are fully embedded in. That's why you've always felt outside. That's why you've never quite fit. You were never supposed to. Your awareness was always meant to stretch across dimensions so you could act as a bridge. You are the link between the seen and the unseen, between potential and pattern. You're not meant to choose one or the other. You're meant to balance both without being consumed by either. So how do you do that? How do you walk in two timelines without losing yourself? The answer is embodiment. Not escapism, not dissociation, not performance. True embodiment. The art of letting your physical body become a vessel for multidimensional awareness without collapsing under the weight of it. This means you train your nervous system to hold more sensation. You train your breath to regulate incoming energy. You train your mind to observe without attaching. You train your speech to reflect truth without trying to convince. You don't escape the physical, you honor it as the vessel of translation. Because here's the key: the second timeline, the energetic one, does not override this one, it infuses it. You're not meant to bypass this reality, you're meant to upgrade it from within. And that only happens when you can stand in both timelines fully, with your soul anchored and your awareness expanded. This is what makes the dark chosen ones so rare. Most people either get stuck in the physical or lost in the spiritual. Few can hold both. Even fewer can operate from both without losing coherence. Let me ask you something now, something that only your multidimensional self can answer. Which timeline are you feeding with your attention right now? Are you reacting to the timeline you were born into, or are you building the one your soul remembers? This is where the shift happens, when you stop being a victim of the timeline you inherited and start becoming a creator of the timeline you came to birth. But to do that, you must stop splitting yourself. You must stop compartmentalizing your spiritual awareness as something separate from your daily life. You must stop switching modes between mundane and mystical. They are not different realities, they are layers of the same one. And when you finally stop choosing between them and start weaving them together, your power becomes undeniable. That's when you speak and people listen, not because you're loud, but because your words carry frequency from another realm. That's when you walk into a room and the energy shifts, not because you're performing, but because your field is anchoring a higher pattern. That's when your presence alone starts to reroute timelines, not by force, but by resonance. You don't need to escape this world to change it. You need to remember that you are already walking in a deeper one, and your job is not to explain it, your job is to embody it so fully that those around you start to feel it, even if they can't name it. The forbidden mechanics of frequency, how dark chosen ones reshape reality without permission. There comes a moment when you stop asking if you're powerful and start realizing you always were. but not in the way you were taught to understand power. Not through force, manipulation, control, or authority, not through titles or followers or visible influence. No, the power of the dark chosen ones is far more dangerous, far more subtle, and far more forbidden. It doesn't move through the channels society recognizes, it moves through frequency, and once you understand how frequency actually works, you'll see why it was hidden from you. Let's start with this. Everything is frequency. Not metaphorically, literally. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every belief you carry radiates a frequency that either reinforces the current structure of reality or destabilizes it. The dark chosen ones are not powerful because they fight the system. They are powerful because their frequency disagrees with the system. And that disagreement isn't loud, it's resonant. It doesn't argue, it disassembles. It doesn't need to convince, it simply exists. And reality has no choice but to respond. This is why so many of us have felt punished just for being ourselves, misunderstood, rejected, isolated. It's not because you were wrong. It's because your frequency was interfering with the programmed field. You didn't even have to say a word. Just your presence was enough to trigger recalibration in others. And most people aren't ready for that. They feel it as discomfort, resistance, even hostility. But it's not personal, it's mechanical. When a higher frequency enters a field, the field either rises to meet it or collapses under the tension. That's the forbidden mechanic they never wanted you to know. That you don't have to do anything to change the world, you just have to stop lowering your frequency to match it. And that's the real test, isn't it? Not awakening, not even remembering, but maintaining your frequency in a world addicted to distortion. It's easy to be high vibe in solitude. It's easy to access clarity in meditation. But what happens when you return to noise, to chaos, to the mundanity of everyday life? Can you still hold your frequency when the matrix pokes at your wounds? Can you still stay embodied when your past is weaponized against you? Can you still emit truth without needing to defend it? This is where the dark chosen ones separate from the spiritual tourists. The tourists chase peak experiences, cosmic highs, downloads, and dopamine. But the chosen? They become technicians of frequency. They learn to tune themselves moment by moment. They learn to track the subtle shifts inside, what contracts them, what expands them, what pulls them into ego, what returns them to center. They stop outsourcing their frequency to the environment and instead become the environment. It's the key. You don't walk into a room and assess the energy, you set it, not with effort, with presence. But here's the most forbidden part. When you master your frequency, you begin to reshape reality without permission. You don't wait for the world to change. You become so aligned with your inner dimension that the outer dimension begins to bend around it. People change when they're near you, not because you made them, but because your field makes distortion uncomfortable. Opportunities appear not because you chase them, but because your resonance makes them inevitable. Systems collapse not because you fought them, but because your presence disrupts the lie they rest upon. And that's why this power is feared, because it cannot be controlled, it cannot be bought, it cannot be regulated, it's not loud, it's not flashy, but it is sovereign. And sovereignty is the greatest threat to any reality built on dependency. So now I ask you, not your mind, but your frequency. What have you been tuning yourself to out of fear, out of survival, out of habit? And what would happen if you stopped? Because the moment you reclaim your frequency is the moment reality loses its grip on you. And the moment you stabilize that frequency, without apology, without compromise, without waiting for approval, is the moment you become a walking portal. That's how the dark chosen ones reshape the world, not through rebellion, through resonance. The return to origin. Why dark chosen ones remember what the world forgot. At the end of every spiritual journey, beneath all the layers of power, mastery, and awakening, lies something simple. Something so ancient, so familiar, that when you finally touch it, you don't feel enlightened, you feel home. This is the origin. Not a place, not a memory, a state of being. A pure frequency that existed before identity, before trauma, before time itself. And the greatest secret about the dark chosen ones is this: they never came here to learn something new. They came to remember what the world forgot. From the moment we incarnate, the forgetting begins. We are taught to name ourselves, define ourselves, limit ourselves. We are taught how to survive, how to belong, how to obey, and in that process, we lose contact with the original signal, the pure resonance of our soul. But for the dark chosen ones, that signal never fully disappears. It pulses beneath the surface like a buried code, like a cosmic echo waiting to be activated. That's why we've always felt different. Not better, different. Like we were carrying something fragile and powerful inside us that we didn't know how to access, but somehow knew we could never abandon. The world forgot, and in forgetting, it created substitutes, external systems to replace internal guidance, belief to replace knowing, control to replace trust, fear to replace love. And the deeper the world forgot, the more the chosen ones were needed, not to preach, not to convert, but to embody remembrance, to become living reminders of what we all once knew, that we are not separate from the divine, that we do not need permission to be whole, that power is not something we earn, it's something we return to. But here's the paradox. In order to remember the origin, the dark chosen ones had to walk through the deepest amnesia. We had to forget so completely that the remembering would transform us. It's not an intellectual remembering, it's not about recovering facts or stories. It's about frequency. Every time we choose presence over panic, truth over performance, essence over ego, we are decoding the original signal. Every time we move from integrity instead of image, we realign with the pattern of life as it actually is, not as it's been programmed to appear. And that's why this path is not for everyone, because remembering your origin means letting everything that was built on forgetting fall away. It means losing roles, relationships, reputations. It means letting go of the comfort of being understood, the safety of being normal, the illusion of being accepted. But what you gain is something no system can offer: alignment with truth so deep, so stable, so ancient, it cannot be shaken. It's not about becoming something, it's about stripping away everything you were never meant to carry. It's about collapsing the false timelines and stepping fully into the one your soul has always walked, even when you didn't know it. And when that happens, you stop acting like a seeker. You start moving like a rememberer. You don't preach the truth, you radiate it. You don't fix people, you mirror them. You don't need to be seen, you become the seeing. So let me ask you, in this final moment, not your ego, not your mind, but the oldest part of you, the part that was never touched by fear. What are you here to remember that no one else can? What truth lives in your bones, in your breath, in your silence? Because that's your origin, and every step you take from that place reshapes the entire field around you, not by effort, by echo. You are the memory the world has been waiting for. You are the signal that cannot be blocked. You are the return. You are the proof that we never truly lost the way. We just needed someone brave enough to walk it first. And now that you've remembered, don't forget again.